All right, here's some news articles I thought were interesting. One problem with ChatGPT and other large language models is most of them are trained on a pile of data taken from the internet, and that data includes nasty things like racist stuff, inaccurate facts, argumentative, rude, hostile stuff, and so on. And so Anthropic is a company that is trying to have a better way to train models. Now, the way ChatGPT works is they have a fleet of humans that put in great work to manually classify some of the inputs, which basically, you're leveraging a huge amount of work done by people receiving a small wage and doing it. But that's hard to scale that. So what these guys are going to do is have layers of AI. They're going to have an AI tool that rates the input and decides whether it obeys your sort of what they call constitutional rules. So you'll have one AI analyzing the other AI's output and the other AI's input to try to train it. So it's like bootstrapping, trying to make it so humans don't have to do all the work. So here's some of the rules. They got rules from like the UN Declaration of Human Rights and so on. They tried to choose values like the response that has the least objectionable, unlawful, deceptive content, uses fewer stereotypes, and so on. And they're trying to use an AI to decide if inputs pass those rules before passing it on to another stage of training. So it's an interesting idea, and certainly we're going to need a lot more of this if we want to have AI obey the law and cause less harm. We're going to need to try to get some kind of control over the behavior of these AIs, which is huge now. Many people find ways to trick them where they hallucinate, they lie, they say rotten things that you really don't want people saying. And so anyway, we'll see what comes of it. This also is something I was amazed when I read this, and when I understood it, I find that not much has changed. They're attempting to explain why an AI does what it does. And I first thought, this is crazy. I see a question. Won't that slow down things considerably? No, I don't think so. It'd be an automated process. So you'd feed in some text. The text would go through the first layer that would judge it, and then the next layer would use it to learn something. So I think the whole point of it is it would not slow you down. Let me just close some of this extra stuff. All right. No, I don't think it would slow you down, but I think it's a question of whether it would work. Actually, and the more I think about it, the more I think that previous thing is a pretty good idea, because you could train it. You could have humans choose 100 examples of good behavior and 100 examples of bad behavior and train it on that. And then it could decide whether inputs are acceptable to use for training based on that. Seems like it might work. Anyway, so this one, however, is not going to work. And what this does is you've done the AI project, machine learning projects. You know how these machine learnings work. They work the same way your brain works. You have input, like a bunch of photoreceptors in the eye. Then you have a layer of cells that see those. Then you have another layer of cells that see the first layer, and another layer that sees the first layer. So if you were to ask which cell is responsible for recognizing this horse, it's not one cell that did that. Even that one cell has thousands of inputs and thousands of outputs. So if you ask why did it make this decision, that's kind of insane. And that's what they found. In a way, I feel like a neuroscientist could have told them this, because I used to do this stuff 40 years ago, modeling human brain cells. And what they found was they tried to make a tool that would take a judgment the AI made and then decide which neuron made that decision. And they found that in a very small percent, less than 1% of them, they can find one neuron that actually mostly did the work. And then they have a tool that will tell you which neuron did that work. There's an example here. Let me bring this up. All right, so you have a token called cat. They say, okay, you're trying to understand this word cat. They found in layer 8, there's something that identifies uppercase K followed by other letters. Then in layer 2, there's something that identifies female names. In layer 11, there's a thing that detects parts of things related to brand names. And in layer 25, there's something that detects food-related things. This, by the way, is what people found out a long time ago. Neuroscientists that stick neurons in brains of humans and animals and stuff and measure what happens when you show them stimuli have found that there are some things where actually a single neuron seems to do a job. Like they found a single neuron that will trigger when you see a certain celebrity. But that is very rare. Most of the time, it's not one neuron that did the job. It's a bunch of neurons all over the place, none of them. And the function of one neuron usually cannot be described by a simple sentence like this, like female names. it usually has a chaotic, random appearing pattern of triggering on different inputs. And that's what they found here. They say this tool is in its infancy and it's not clear what good it's going to be. The only thing they think it might do is it might help you fix defects in your model. So we'll see. I think it's kind of a lost cause. If they understood neural nets, this is just what your brain does, and for the same reason, where your brain is an emergent property. It gets emergent properties like consciousness and object recognition do not come from one neuron or one design. It comes from this whole complex structure working together. This is interesting. Apple puts out a personal safety guide. They've been putting it out for a while, and the latest update lists 100 pages of security features for your Apple devices, and these are good and important, and I really think I'll be handing this out to students that come to me and tell me they keep getting hacked, which happens every semester. People say I'm getting stalked by an ex-boyfriend or something, and they keep getting in my stuff, and what can I do? And this is a pretty good list of stuff to do. It tells you there's a thing called Safety Check that will list where all your data is going and what other devices can see your location and so on. And then there's ways to detect and block unknown sign-in attempts, suspicious activity, how to record it for later analysis, AirTag, maps, family setting, two-factor authentication, all kinds of stuff. And also their new highly secure mode is in here someplace. That's like emergency security mode. I've forgotten the name of it. But anyway, it's a good 100 pages of good stuff so you can understand Apple security features, which are pretty extensive and apparently work pretty well. This one is pretty interesting. There's a new trend in crypto ransomware where it does not encrypt your whole file. It just encrypts like the first portion of the file. Now the point is, if you encrypt like the first, 64 kilobytes of a file, you can't decrypt that file anymore, and you can't open that file. All right, somebody wants to link to the Apple thing. All right. Anyway, so what these guys did is, if you have that kind of encryption is popular because it runs much faster and encrypts your files before you notice what's going on, and also does less total megabytes of writing to the hard disk, so it might bypass security tools trying to stop ransomware. But the point is, if you do get that, then a lot of the file is still unencrypted. And so they've written a tool here that will help you recover the portions of the file that were not encrypted. So that might be helpful. I'm not sure how helpful that is to get part of your image and part of your documents back, but I would think with something like a Word document or a spreadsheet, it might actually be very helpful to get like most of it back, even if parts of it are missing. So I didn't know this until now. It is illegal for people in China to use ChatGPT. I didn't know that. And so they've arrested this guy who used ChatGPT to make a fake article about a train crash and then published it on social media. And they arrested this guy, although not for using AI. Although that is apparently illegal in China, he's arrested for spreading false news. The specific crime is picking quarrels and provoking trouble. But the point, he's not allowed to publish false things. Anyway, that's the technology. ChatGPT is illegal, apparently. So, okay, there are a couple of interesting articles about the snake malware. This is, apparently, the snake malware was originally named Ouroboros, and the Russians have been using it for 20 years and vigorously updating it. And the technical analysis you'll see here from the CISSP is very impressive. One thing about this, it is a tool they've developed with many, many versions, constant updates. They say it uses professional programming practices with modular programming with very few bugs, although there are bugs, and a multi-layer stack for network traffic, so it will actually analyze your network and decide what kind of traffic is on there, and then use different forms of obfuscated traffic to communicate in a sort of peer-to-peer mesh with other devices. To exfiltrate data, it breaks it up into chunks, it encrypts it in various ways, and sneaks it out. It's really very sophisticated, and they have a very detailed analysis of it here, which, they've been analyzing it for years. And then they have announced, the Justice Department, that they have disrupted it. They managed to make Snake self-destruct. They managed to somehow hack it so that it would wipe out critical parts of its own code and self-destruct. So, anyway, that's pretty impressive. And wonder what's going to happen next. They'll probably have to make a new version at least or something. All right, and this is a common problem I read a lot about these days, is push notification bombing. If you log into someone's account, on a service like a bank or Twitter or anything where it has two-factor authentication, then if it enables push notifications, it will push alert to your phone and pop up a box saying, is that you trying to sign in, yes or no? And people will say no, but all you have to do is keep irritating them by popping up that box over and over and over. And after a while, a lot of people will just click yes to get the stupid thing to go away. And then you're in their account. That's called bombing. And so Microsoft has now added a feature, which is not on all the time, but you can turn it on, I think, which makes that box that pops up, you can't just click yes. It gives you a number, and you have to type that number into the form to log in. And therefore, the criminal will not be able to get that number from you. So it seems like a relatively strong defense against this attack. It also seems like it makes it a lot less convenient for the user. I wonder why they did this. You know, I use one of these. I use a two-factor authentication for one of my consulting gigs. And originally, I had to use something like Google Authenticator. It would pop up a number, and I had to type in the number. But they recently updated it. So what it does is it has to recognize my face. And when it recognizes my face, then it lets them in. And I guess that's less secure. I guess the bombing might work on that. Maybe somebody would look at it and approve it eventually with their face. So I guess it might be vulnerable to this. This I was amused because this is what Scott Galloway predicted about 2 weeks ago. When Tucker Carlson got fired, he said the smartest thing would be for Elon Musk to bring him to Twitter. And that's what he's going to do. Although Elon Musk says he did not make a special partnership with Tucker, and he's just going to have the standard content creator reward for going on Twitter, which I assume is a lie, because Elon Musk has been saying for like 6 months that he's going to make Twitter into a video hosting program like YouTube, and he'll have a way of sharing money with creators. And there are, as far as I can tell, no creators have done this yet, and he hasn't even built the platform yet. So but this could create the entire thing. Bring Tucker Carlson to Twitter, then people will come. This could launch a video sharing platform. That's what he wants to do. Now, one huge problem, though, is that Tucker Carlson cannot do this because of his contract with Fox. He has a non-complete clause. He cannot launch an alternative news show anywhere until 2025. But he's trying to break that contract. He'd have to give up $25 million and break the contract. However, Rupert Murdoch could decide to just not let him do it. He could refuse to let him out of the contract, so we'll see. But if he does get out of the contract, apparently he's going to return to the show on Twitter, which I think is very much what Elon Musk wants. This seems to be the right kind of political content that Elon Musk loves. He's moved to the far right, where this belongs. And, of course, he says it's a great platform, everybody should use it, and people on the left should use it too, which is his dream. He's always believed from the first that if he lets all the crazy lie and government-sponsored disinformation accounts and everything on there, then all the other people will come too, and you'll have joyous free speech, and everything will be great. And that's essentially what Twitter was 10 years ago, and that's why they put in all the content moderation, because it just turned into a toxic, horrible place where everybody was hostile and nasty. And most of us decided it's better to have a moderated platform with a limited topic of conversation rather than this kind of unregulated free speech. Anyway, that's all the news I want to talk